Welcome to the wonderful world of dance, bringing you exclusive interviews with top dancers and choreographers and reviews of the world's best companies across the globe. You can find lots more on our website at thewonderfulworldofdance.com.
Hi, this is Savannah Saunders from The Wonderful World of Dance, and today I am thrilled to introduce Valerie Ebuwa, who's a dance artist, deviser, teacher, writer and model. Her work incorporates hip-hop, African, dancehall, jazz and other movement forms such as yoga and capoeira. She's also taught and performed internationally and has been awarded the Young Stoff Award at the Stockholm Fringe Festival. As well as her own blog, Valerie writes for I Am Hip Hop magazine, a printed and online publication champion the hip hop culture. What we're going to be talking about today is not just Valerie's career, but also about the work that she's been doing with a really important platform called Woman SRSLY, which is a female-led performance platform which champions bold new performance by female-identified and socialized female artists through platforms and networking support. Now, hi, Valerie. That was a bit of an intro. Sorry, I had a long one. Thanks so much for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
So it sounds like you've had quite a busy week. You've been over at the Barbican, is that right, this week?
Yes, that's correct.
Tell me what you've been working on over at the Barbican.
So I'm a part of a dance company called Rhiannon Faith at the moment, and the piece that we're doing at the Barbican, it's part of their festival, which is called The Art of Change, and it's a piece called Smack That, a Conversation, and it's about domestic abuse.
Wow.
It features, it's pretty rough. It features 3 dancers and 4 beautiful, amazing survivors of domestic abuse, and it's this piece that's kind of, it tells you the facts and the figures about domestic abuse, and then also, kind of champions us as women, as survivors, and showing that, we can kind of get through anything. So it's been a tough one, but I'm very, very thrilled to be at the Barbican.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just a great space, but what an important subject and an important piece of work to be involved in.
Indeed.
And how did you get involved?
I feel very privileged.
Yeah, how did you get involved in this work?
So a good friend of mine, who's also a part of Women SRSLY, called Claudia Palazzo, she was supposed to be in the piece, and she forwarded me an email about an audition, and at the time it was at January, February last year, and at the time I was a bit like, I've been performing too much, I don't know whether I can take on another project, and then she was like, no, have a look at this, and then the description just kind of, it really spoke to me. At the time they were still kind of awaiting Arts Council funding, and there was nothing to do with the Barbican or anything like that, and then the Barbican kind of caught wind of it. We had a share-in when the piece was, it wasn't even finished, it wasn't even made. And then straight away they were like, yeah, we want to book it for this festival. So we've been waiting and working hard for this last year, kind of doing so many different versions of the piece, touring it around and stuff, to finally, premiere it in London at the Barbican. So, it's certainly been a crazy 2 years piece. But I was very lucky that Cloud, was kind of like, no, this one, I know you don't want to take on anything more, but I really think this one's for you. So, I was really lucky.
That sounds like, I love the story. An email sets off this sort of 2-year journey for you, but also it's quite a tough and important subject matter, domestic violence, something which I feel really personally is a subject that should be discussed, and particularly from the female perspective. How was it for you and the other performers, sort of working and creating this piece and tackling that subject matter?
It was It was very tricky. I mean, we're all survivors of domestic abuse. The premise of the piece is it's a party, because a lot of the kind of I guess, psychological and emotional abuse kind of happened in, for most of us anyway, in kind of party setups. So yeah, the piece is kind of set as a party, and it's the text in the piece is all our own testimonials, basically. We're all trying to portray, or we all are portraying, shall I say, one character called Beverly, which is in reference to Abigail's Party, which I don't know if you've watched. But yeah, and it's quite it's quite tricky having to kind of expose stories and kind of things that sometimes even our parents or our best friends don't even know. So immediately it made us quite a close-knit group. I mean, I love the girls so dearly, and yeah, so it was quite. It made us quite close and quite strong, because we knew all these kind of these really kind of crazy and quite scary and quite unbelievable, actually, things about each other's lives. So yeah, that was quite hard, and then kind of making sure that we were all kind of safe and protected, that it wasn't all too much. We have a psychologist that's always on hand, and a counsellor, so we always had an opportunity to kind of talk to them. And then obviously translating all that kind of into movement as well was quite difficult. But I mean, I think that's I think it's an artist's job, really. It's to kind of to really put forward a subject that people don't want to talk about. I think that's the job of an artist. It's the job of the arts to to do that, to be these kind of activists, or this kind of people that stand up for injustices and all those kind of things. So if I can't do that with my art, then I don't really feel like I'm an artist, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was pretty difficult and pretty tricky. Lots of crying. I
can imagine.
Lots of crying. Lots of talking, actually, as well. Just to kind of, I think I didn't realise, some of the relationships that I had been in had been quite abusive, actually, until actually I'd started speaking to these girls and being like, oh, actually, that's familiar, or oh, that happened to me, or oh, like, I didn't think at the time that was that bad, but actually that actually meant this. So yeah, it was quite difficult, but it was also quite cathartic as well. I think it was definitely, I mean, I knew that taking on the job that it'd be quite a difficult challenge, but I don't ever really want to be in work that isn't going to challenge me physically, emotionally. I don't want to be making any work or be a part of any work that isn't doing that. So yeah, I'm always up for the challenge.
Yeah. I sort of hearing what you're saying. It's sort of left me a little bit speechless, actually, because when we set about talking this evening, I had no idea we'd be sort of talking about domestic violence and the role of the arts to give a voice to the survivors and those who go through the experience. And like you, I grew up in a family where there was domestic violence when I was a young child. So not in my relationship with my wonderful husband. I better say that. So there's no confusion if he hears this. But when I was a child, I saw it, and I can imagine for yourself, you talked about it being a cathartic experience, and the talking and the sharing and the identification of actually, well, that was abuse, whereas some women or yourself may not have thought of that as being necessarily classified as what people would normally think of as abusive. And I think it'd be interesting to see, and I don't know if you've had any response from the audience in terms of how they have interacted or made them consider, their own lives and their own interactions and the things which they either experience or have seen themselves.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. We have a part at the end of the show where we kind of say, because we leave the space, open and kind of free for the audience to say, because it is quite a heavy topic, and to kind of just be like, well, here's the show, and then get out. It's kind of a bit, I don't know. Rhiannon, I think, didn't want to leave her, audience like that. Because she understands the kind of weight of what they've just seen. So yeah, we've had loads of, especially from the men actually,
really,
that come to watch it. Because I mean, I think a lot of the time these kind of conversations we kind of have about these kind of patriarchal structures and these kind of hyper masculinity and all these kind of things, all these kind of things that kind of like add to this kind of, I guess, problem, I suppose. We kind of had these conversations between us girls, or us females. I'll talk about it to my sister, but I won't necessarily talk about it to my brother. So I think a lot of the men in the audience were quite shocked actually about some of because there's quite a lot of statistics that we actually put down, quite a lot of the audience members, and they're like, whoa, I didn't realise that, whoa, actually never heard that before, whoa, that could have happened to my sister, or whoa, that could be happening to my friend, or whoa, so I think there was definitely a huge response from female members of the audience, but I think we certainly shocked a lot of male, audience members. Even them might possibly thinking that they could be, perpetrators and not even realise, I think we shocked quite a few people this last coming week.
Sounds really powerful. Were you expecting to shock the men? Was that something you went into this thinking that might happen, or was it more about a female conversation to have with audience members? Or
for me personally, I definitely wanted to shock the men.
Okay.
I don't know about any of the girls, but
fantastic.
I definitely wanted to shock the men, because I really, my best friend is a man, is a bisexual man, and sometimes I tell him stories, and I can see his face, like sometimes being like, "What do you mean?" or like, or like, and I'm like, okay, like, and probably the reason why I feel comfortable speaking about it to him is because he's a bisexual man, I don't think he has that kind of, I don't want to, it's not that it's a bad thing, but that kind of hetero gaze, I guess, or the hetero male kind of, toxic
perspective.
He doesn't have that kind of, he doesn't have that kind of perspective or vibe to him, but then he's still shocked about these things. So in my head, I'm like, okay, well, if he's shocked, and he's someone who I would consider as, super open and massive feminist, and is surrounded by all these, like, quite a lot of females in our group as well, like, and he's still shocked, and I can't even imagine, like I said, like my brother or some of my other male friends, what they're thinking. So for me, it was definitely about shocking some of the guys, and actually a lot of it's audience. Well, the piece is an audience participation piece, so we have to actually sit in with the audience, and there always seems to be, in my side of the audience, like more men, and I love it. I absolutely love it, because I'm like, okay, like, I'm gonna speak directly to you now. Like, this is, you need to hear this. You need to understand what this is, and then you need to go and tell your other friends, and tell your female friends, and tell your mum, and tell your sister, and all these kind of things that you now have an understanding, a little, like, insight to maybe one day in my world, or in their world. So yeah, I think it's definitely, it's important for women, but I think it's super important the men, I guess, to see. And I definitely was very up for like shocking them and like trying to educate a little bit. I think it's important, like, because like we're not just as dancers. I think we're not just instruments. I think a lot of the time when you train to be a dancer, you kind of get into this kind of habit of being like, okay, I have to look like everyone else, and I have to be this thing, and I have to get my legs here, and I have to do this, and I have to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like, I think that's brilliant, but then I think you have to have a little bit more artistic integrity. I don't know. I mean, I think that's, if I want to pass on anything, it's just about, you can make a choice. You can choose to what you want to say, even within someone else's work. You can choose. You can have your own artistic integrity, and you should be looking for that and searching for that, and not just, kind of trying to be a kind of cardboard, copy of all the, and it's hard not to be that way either, because, these schools churn out 100, 200, students each year. It's hard not to be like that, but I think, there's something about, really understanding your autonomy and really understanding that, like, actually, if you've got something to say, that you can actually say it within someone else's work and within your own work too. So I think I hope I'm doing that. I hope.
Well, it definitely sounds like you are. It's interesting because when I talk to choreographers or creators who, sort of look back on their life and their careers, and I often ask, about advice that they would pass on, and a lot of them do say about, finding or being authentic and giving voice to your own personal journey and your own identity and your what you have to say, rather than trying to create or be like anyone else, but to be yourself. And that is even from the pure classical ballet at one end, right through to the sort of more experimental makers on the other end, but they all seem to say similar things, actually, which is what you're saying.
That's good to know.
But so, I mean, your work, your performance, you bring together so many different types of dance. How do you bring these together as an artist and on stage? It's a really interesting mix.
I think, that's a really good question. I think, I know it sounds really, really corny and really stupid, but those things that I trained as a contemporary dancer, I've always had a love and an interest in hip hop culture, jazz, all these kind of different things. These things make up who I am as a person. So, and I feel like Valerie the person, or the personality or whatever, and Valerie the dancer is the same thing. So in order for me to be in anything, those things can't not exist, I guess. So for me, it's really simple. It's going to come out in everything that I do. There is always going to be, if I hear a hip hop beat, there's always going to be a groove, if I'm in a room with contemporary dancers, I guess there's always going to be, I guess that kind of vibe. But I think it's just being honest and being true to whatever it is that the choreographer or the person or whoever's employing you is asking you to do. And I also think as well that, when I go to auditions or things like that, they see what already is there, and if people don't like that or don't want that or feel like they can't work with that, then they won't employ me. So I think these things are always going to be embedded in my work, because that's who I am as a person, and who I am as a person is exactly who I am. exactly who I am, as an artist. But then it's also I think about the people that decide to employ me, what they're interested in too. And I think they might see a side of me that they're like, oh, okay, like I can work with that, and I want to take on that thing. Or I think quite a lot of choreographers, especially these days, in terms of where contemporary dance is going, I feel like it is kind of moving or heading towards a more of a kind of street dance or hip hop, or there's definitely more fusions happening of recent times. So I feel like I'm quite lucky in that sense, because I would never say I'm a hip hop dancer. I'd never say that I'm not. I didn't train as Boy Blue, and not super technical in popping and locking and breaking and all these other things. But I definitely have an understanding and knowledge about those styles, and my knowledge of those styles I combine or I use with my knowledge of my contemporary training, because that's my base. So I think I've just been quite lucky, I guess, in this kind of like modern day and age of where like kind of contemporary dance, I guess, is kind of going, and that it kind of plays to things that I'm already quite strong at, or things that I'm already interested in. But yeah, I think I'm always gonna. There's always going to be a kind of mix or blend of my interests, because I think even when I was training as a contemporary dancer, that was always quite prevalent in my movement vocabulary, my quality as a performer. And London Contemporary Dance School took that on, knowing that they auditioned me and they saw that and they took that on. So yeah, I think that's how. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, you're London born and bred, that's right? Yeah. East London, and I think, yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask, you talk about your training that you had with the London Contemporary Dance School and what they saw in you as the person and the individual, and the differences even within yourself. Tell me about sort of growing up in East London, and when you sort of thought, well, I'd love to become a dancer, and what inspired you in the first place and set you on this really interesting journey?
Sure. So yeah, I was born and raised in East London. I come from a place called Forest Gate, which is right next to Stratford. Generally, people don't know where Forest Gate is, but it's right next to Stratford. And I've always wanted to dance. Always. I also had that kind of like typical like Nigerian family that were like, no, like, you're academic, and my dad was a lawyer and my mum was a teacher, and I was the last of five, so I was kind of like, the last of their kind of hopes. They were like, you can go to Cambridge, yes. But it just was never. It was just never on the cards for me. I had a best friend at school who used to go to a school called Italia Conti, and she'd come home. I'd go to her house after school, or she'd come round to mine, and then sometimes she'd show me what she'd learned, and then I'd be like behind her, just like trying to copy and all these kind of things. And my sister had ballet lessons when she was young, because one of her teachers at primary school also happened to be like could teach ballet as well, so she'd do it after school, so that my parents could kind of work a bit more, and then like could pick her up after they would had work and stuff. So I was always kind of there, kind of like looking and kind of trying to copy and wanting to kind of do it, but then I was never really allowed to. And then I kind of got to 18, and then I just said I'm gonna just do it because I was a bit sick of just doing what my parents wanted me to do. I was never really good at that anyway. I was never really good at like following suit, and it wasn't really my thing. So then, one day I was like, really quite a horrible time actually. I decided I was so scared about like what my parents would think. No, I didn't tell my parents that I wasn't going to university straight away until the day that I got my A-level results. So I'd got all these fantastic results, and then my dad was like, cool, so like, yeah, UCL, or like, have you applied for like York, and have you applied for like Cambridge, and all these things? And I was like, oh yeah, Dad, actually I'm gonna go to Lewisham College because I want to be a dancer. And yeah, like it was just awful, like massive argument. My dad was so disappointed. My mum was really disappointed. Yeah, my siblings were a bit like, what? Like, what's going on? What's this? And I was like, no, I'm going to give this dance thing a go. Like, I'm going to really give it a go. Like, I think, I don't think, I know that this is the thing that I'm supposed to do. So then I spent 2 years at Lewisham College, and then because there was no kind of like dance, I mean, there was like Brit School and things like that, but there wasn't really another course for people who were above 18. That was like kind of like a vocational dance course, and I knew that's what I needed, so I knew that I had to kind of leave East London to find that. So I did. But East London definitely, like, you know, there were so many things that were going on there that definitely like influenced my dancing. Like Boy Blue Entertainment was like based, or it still is based, kind of in Maryland, and Maryland was in walking distance from my house. So like, although I wasn't like taking classes, like I was, you know, there watching classes, or I was very aware of what was going on at the time in terms of like the hip hop scene in East London, as well as like grime started in East London, so I was aware of, you know, the kind of links between grime music and hip hop culture. So that definitely had like a massive kind of effect on me as an artist. You know, I definitely was like, okay, I might not be like this kind of dancer or this kind of performer or into this kind of thing, but this definitely moves me. So yeah, like it was quite a tough 2 years after that, of kind of like really convincing my parents and also myself, I guess, as well, that like I was supposed to kind of do this thing. And actually it was in my second year at Lewisham College where I met Grace Nichol, who's like the creator and founder of Woman SRSLY, and that's when our kind of friendship and working relationship, well, that's where it started and that's where it came from. So yeah, a lot of kind of moving around and starting about. I, you know, spent 2 years in Lewisham, and then London Contemporary's based in Euston. So I spent most of my time training everywhere apart from East London, just to kind of figure out what this kind of whole contemporary dance kind of vibe or contemporary dance thing was. But it was actually quite sad because at the time, I know now, like East London dances, I mean, they are, you know, quite rooted in hip hop culture, but they, you know, at the moment they're doing this ESOL project with Hoffa Schechter. So, and they work with Tony Adigan a lot, who's also one of the resident artists, I believe, at the place. So, you know, they're very much now involved with kind of this kind of fusion, or this kind of, you know, understanding the importance of contemporary dance in East London, and kind of finding East London locals and training them as well. So but I feel like it's only, you know, they've kind of pushed that more and more the last maybe 5-6 years, which I'm really happy about. But yeah, at the time when I was growing up, like there wasn't really, in terms of contemporary dance, there wasn't anything for me. So I had to kind of move out. And it's really funny because I spoke to John D about this not too long ago, and he was the same actually. He grew up in East London, grew up around Bow, and then he went to Lewisham College as well, and then the place too. So I think it's safe to say that East Londoners, really, you know, in order for us to sort for contemporary dance training, we kind of had to leave, and then kind of come back to kind of, I guess, help out and spread knowledge. I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? But it sounds like your East London roots are very important, and the culture when you're growing up has really influenced you. And like you say, now it's, getting a really important platform, and where actually it's become its own sort of elevated culture, I guess, or more exposed, which is fantastic. I think the work they're doing is great. So tell me about the work of Woman SRSLY, or tell us about the platform.
Okay, so Woman SRSLY is a female-led platform. It's for female socialised or identified artists to come and present their work. Like I said before, it's created by Grace Nickel, but it's hosted by me, and there is a couple of panel members as well. So there's a group of 6 of us that all put on this quarterly platform in order to help female artists basically put on their work and get their work seen. And it came out from, I guess, Grace, bless her soul, her will and need to kind of put out her own work. But as we know, with Arts Council funding and things like that, like, it's really, really hard, especially
absolutely,
for female artists, to kind of get funding for your stuff, and especially as well if you've just moved to London and you're kind of starting out and not many people really know about you and all these kind of things. It's really hard to get your work seen. It's really hard to get your work funded. So I guess Grace was a bit sick of kind of like fighting, I guess, and trying to get her work seen and all these other things, that actually she just created her own platform. And it wasn't at all to get her own work seen, which is actually the beauty of it, I think. It was just to help out people like her, that choreographers, makers, that just wanted their work to be seen and to be accepted, and also to not, I guess, we put our work out there to be judged, but to be judged in a safe environment as well. And for us as women to take ownership of our work, take ownership of our bodies, and take ownership of the space. There's space for us in the arts community, but I feel like that there's these kind of, I guess gatekeepers, or these people that kind of, if you're not kind of in with the clique, or if you're not in with the crew, if you're not in with gatekeepers, if you haven't got an in, then your work is either rubbish or just not getting, no matter how good it is, it's just not getting funded, or it's just not
difficult to show.
Exactly. So it was just about creating visibility, and so I think it was Grace is, I've worked with Grace for the last 7 years, toured with her in countless countries and done countless pieces with her, and mainly for free, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we didn't have any money to fund it. We didn't have any, we were just two kids kind of just trying to help each other out. I've always wanted to perform. I've never had a real interest in kind of in choreography or making work, and she's always wanted to choreograph, and so it was just kind of a match made kind of in heaven, I guess. We get along really well. Like I like the way Grace works and the way Grace thinks, and I've always thought she has something special to offer the dance world and the arts world. So I was always willing to kind of stand by her and help her out with whatever she would kind of throw at me. So she came up with this concept, and she asked if I could host it.
Fantastic.
And I've never hosted anything before, so I was a bit like, wow, what do you mean? Can I just dance on the side? What do you mean? She has a lot more faith in me than I do most.
I'm sure you were brilliant.
So she said, no, I think you can do it. So I was like, okay, I trust you. So I'm going to go and try this thing out. And then, Yeah, that was last year, August, and we've been kind of churning it out ever since.
Fantastic.
It's like really pushing and working on it with some other fabulous artists. So yeah.
And how has the platform been received? Not just by those other women who get to show their work or participate as artists in this platform, which is so good. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But also from the audience and from the industry, as you say, there are, it's gatekeepers, funding's difficult, the challenges that all emerging artists face, and particularly female artists, which we've talked quite a bit about on this show over the time. But how do you feel it's being received?
Oh, I think it's been brilliant. I mean, we've been offered loads of things kind of as a result of it. So in September, I'm actually going to be under the Woman SRSLY kind of like brand or banner, or I'm going to actually start mentoring female students at London Contemporary Dance School.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
Just because I think me and Grace both spoke, and yeah, there's something about kind of nipping this kind of idea about women not being fit enough to kind of lead. And I'm not saying that's maybe an idea, but it's definitely I wasn't at school, I wasn't told to go and dance for female choreographers. I wasn't told that I should make my own work. I wasn't told any of these things. So there's definitely, even if it's not necessarily obvious, there's definitely an undertone of
well, we live in this world, don't we? I mean,
exactly.
The BBC article the other week, which I saw about whichever airline it was, CEO saying, I think it was Qatar or something, saying that women can't be a CEO of an airline, which is ridiculous. And constantly seeing these messages out there about how, we can't promote women, and women aren't, don't apply, and there aren't enough great women, and there's, 2% of this is enough, and it's just ridiculous.
Exactly. So yeah, there's definitely an undertone of go and work for this man, go and do this, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not saying that we can't work for these brilliant male choreographers. Yeah, sure, I work for loads of brilliant male choreographers. I work for a man called Tom Dale. I freaking love that guy. I've loved him for the last 10 years, and I feel so privileged to work with him. I also work with a man called Eddie Peake. I fully love this guy. There's loads of brilliant male choreographers out there, but there's also loads of brilliant female choreographers out there who deserve just as much praise and visibility and and promotion. So and I think if we can kind of combat this problem, even starting from before university. I'd love to, get into kind of, back at Lewisham College and things like that, get in there already and be like, hey, you can make work. Hey, what do you want to do? Who do you want to dance for? Have you heard of this person? Have you thought about this? Have you, no one at school ever asked me who I wanted to dance for. They always told me who I should dance for. They didn't even ask me if I even wanted to dance after I left school, because that's also an option as well, So yeah, underneath the banner of Woman SRSLY, I'll be going into London Contemporary Dance School and mentoring young female artists, and just for them to have someone to chat to, mostly really, because I found my time at London Contemporary Dance School really difficult for various reasons. And I wished actually I did have someone who was kind of in the school, but kind of also kind of not really staff. Someone who's
impartial, maybe, or someone who's not connected so much. Yeah.
Exactly, because I'm definitely not. I'm not saying that this happened, but I'm definitely not going to be in the staff room chatting to the technique teachers about so and so and how high they can get their legs or how rubbish they are at picking up material. I'm not really interested in that at all. I'm interested in what the students want, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are paying for the degree. They should be able to get what they need out of it.
And empowering them.
Yeah, like I want to. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm hoping to do. So yeah, I think lots of, I mean, that's just one of the things that have come out of Woman SRSLY. But again, like just, you know, people, I mean, the last platform that we had in April at the Yard Theatre, we had a young baby on stage, and there was a piece about with this mother, and she was making this piece about how hard it is to, you know, put her baby to sleep when she's trying to perform. So this whole performance was about not waking up this baby that was on stage, and it was just incredible.
Wow.
Like, the fact we got, you know, because people don't program work like that. You know, it's hard to get childcare for you know, young or older even, so artists, you know, artists who are mothers, you know, which companies, which theatres, you know, which organisations are providing the help for that? No one. You know, where is this work being seen? Nowhere. And I know this because I'm a part of that scene. I'm performing at venues, and I'm also going to go watch work. And so yeah, like the feedback has just been, you know, absolutely incredible. We had another disabled artist who has chronic fatigue, you know, and she makes videos about her illness, and she never gets her work shown anywhere because it's really hard for her to obviously, you know, approach theatres and things like that. And, you know, also, you know, as with her chronic fatigue, she can't often leave her home or leave her bed, and, you know, she has social anxiety and things like that. So getting her work seen was super important. You know, I think it's super important to empower, you know, disabled artists, artists of colour, you know, LGBTQ artists, trans artists. You know, like it's so important to have a space, and a safe space. It's so important that the space is safe for these people to present their work. Otherwise, you know, you'll find that we'll have the same kind of work being shown, which is fine. It's great. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I love going to Sadler's Wells, and I love going to go see Akram Khan. And I love what these people do for the arts, and I love what they do for the community and on all these other things, you know, and I can't sit there and act like I'm not a part of that community as well. You know, I was at the National Dance Awards this year because one of the companies that I'm in was nominated for an award, you know, so I know that I fall into that category of dancer or artist, you know, that does get funded, and that does, you know, that can be at Barbican and that is at Sadler's Wells, and that is performing and is doing all these things, but it doesn't mean that, you know, if anything, I should be helping artists that aren't on those stages get their work seen and help promote them. That is my duty as an artist, I feel like. So yeah, I think Women SRSLY, the feedback that we've got, because we have feedback sheets as well, also forms at the end of every show, and we get feedback from the theatres that we work at as well. Yeah, it's definitely been brilliant. We also put on a night with Lady Beard magazine as well, where the Women SRSLY artists and panel members actually got to show their own work as well, because we're also makers as well. So that has also been really nice, because people have been like, oh, what about what you guys do?
Share,
you know, like it's been really great. You know, like that wasn't ever the intention. It was always just to eliminate this problem of female artists struggling to get their work seen, struggling to get funded, and struggling to get support. We want to be a support network for, I mean, not only just female artists as well, but mainly female artists. I want to be a support network for them, you know, if I can be of assistance, because there was, you know, I didn't get to where I am as well on my own either. You know, it's through people like Grace and you know, Cloud, who's also a panel member as well, Becky Namgals, who's also a member, Alice White, Holly, you know, all of the lovely women that I work with. You know, we haven't got to where we are on our own. We've all helped each other. We've all provided, like a way, a sisterhood, a network for each other to thrive. So I definitely want to do that for other people if I have the power to do so.
I have to say, it's so admirable. You're not just focused on yourself and your own journey and your own success and your own work, but actually, and I think it's been a thread throughout what you've said over the last sort of 45 minutes, is it's really about you using what you have as an artist and your artistry, and to be able to champion for others and help others and support others. And honestly, Valerie, I think you should add activist to the long list of attributes because I think what you're doing is fantastic. And I'm so glad that you've been able to tell us all about it. Do you have a Woman Seriously coming up soon that we can do a shout out for?
Yes, we do.
Great. Tell us the dates.
So we will be back again at the Yard Theatre on the 30th of August. It should start, I believe, at 8 p.m.
Fantastic.
And tickets aren't available yet.
Okay.
They should be going live, hopefully, at the end of this month, I would say.
Okay.
So, yes, you can be able to grab your ticket.
Fantastic. That's so good. Well, for those who want to get their tickets, but just also to learn more about Woman Seriously, it's Woman SRSLY. So Woman Seriously, but shortened. And also check out Valerie's blog as well. And you can check out some of her hip hop writing, which is, I'll spell it, I'll say it, valerieebuwa.com, VALERIEBUWA.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I really hope to be able to make it down to Woman Seriously. It sounds fantastic.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe. We've got some incredible interviews coming up with principal ballerinas and renowned choreographers. We love dance and ballet, and we hope you'll love us. Join us on Facebook and Twitter.